Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And this is your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Going forward from here, there will be lots of spoilers as we begin our coverage of a new book, so consider this your spoiler warning. Although we won't be going fully in depth this episode specifically, the rest of our coverage of Quicksilver will be very in depth. And we're going to be covering tonight our initial thoughts on Quicksilver by Callie Hart.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
So tonight's drink of the episode is called Little Osha. And this is like a blue, sparkly dream as we
So
start
pretty.
our Quicksilver journey. So we have like a floating dehydrated lemon on the top. And what we've got in here to make it blue is the blue Curaçao. We've got vodka, we've got glitter, because obviously butterflies, glitter go hand in hand. Little Osha, we know we're going to talk more about, meaning butterfly, and little butterfly in this case with Kingfisher. Not usually a pet name fan, but for whatever reason, that one I was okay with. And we'll talk about that a lot more as we get into the book. But we've got vodka, blue Curaçao, we have lavender simple syrup, and then of course we have fresh lemon juice, which I think is really a difference between, if you can buy the refrigerated kind, but I really do feel that the fresh lemon juice sets this apart. And then of course we have sparkling water. I use this sparkling water that I already had in the fridge, so like a flavored water. You can pretty much use whatever one you want. I had watermelon, so I use that. But you could use Sprite Zero, you could use any other flavor. If you had a blueberry one, I'm sure that one would taste really good, or a lemon, even just a straight up lemon one. But yeah, so here's this beautiful blue sparkly drink. Of course, we'll make it on our socials so those of us who are not watching on YouTube can see it, and we'll break the whole drink down for you. So cheers.
Cheers. My cup's not as glittery, but I love the glitter.
We have to.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to immerse ourselves now into Yavelia, which is like kind of the first glimpse of this whole world. We've got a new map, we've got a new book. This episode, we're going to be exploring the overview of the plot, settings, and themes and characters of Quicksilver by Callie Hart. So whether you're reading along with us or just here for the book talk, we are glad that you're here. I want to note too that this is our initial overview, meaning that going forward, we're going to have our traditional layout of chapter by chapter coverage. It's going to be a little bit different than Onyx Storm because we're not going to be weighing in on other books, as this is the first book of this series. We know that the second book is coming out later in the year. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But the coverage of this pacing-wise is going to be a little bit different than the Empyrean series. We're going to take our time. We're going to take this in slower chapters. I'm really looking forward to how we're going to dive in here and what's to come.
Yeah, it's going to be a different pace than what we've done in the past, and I'm very excited into that. We can look a lot deeper into the books. And yeah, I'm just really excited to break down Kingfisher. So this episode, we're going to start off with a summary, right?
It's a little toasty in here.
Summary of the book. And this is just very high level summary, just so we understand the characters and kind of the overall plot of what we're going into for this novel. We start off this novel in the land of the unforgiving desert, which is Zilvarin. And there isn't much a girl wouldn't do for a glass of water here. And we have 24-year-old Sarah Fain. She's our FMC female main character. And she is just, she's a badass. She has a younger brother named Hayden. And really, she's just been providing. And she's been doing whatever she can to provide for her family, and which is just Hayden at this point. And her friends. She's just so loyal. At the beginning of the book, we're really just immersed with plot. You start off with a guard that has her in a chokehold, and then she steals from the Undying Queen, which we'll get into a little bit more, and that keeps the plot rolling. When she steals a gauntlet, which if you don't know what a gauntlet is, it's basically armor, but it's like armor for your hand and like your forearm.
Right, the guns. Yeah, when you think about it, it's kind of like if you go to like the knights of the Round Table or like medieval knights, and you think of like their big armor that they wear. It's quite literally like a hand that goes over your hand. Like,
Right.
that's, like, what it looks like,
It's to
yeah.
protect them, yeah. Since we've covered Onyx Storm, we've covered Fourth Wing, Gauntlet is like a obstacle course. Here,
Right,
Gauntlet is actually like the traditional term for the word
correct.
gauntlet, which is a knight's armor, and this is gold.
Gauntlets in this case, because it's part of these Undying Queen's armor, are incredibly valuable, so this is why she steals this
Mhm.
for some backstory, and just I think for this episode purpose, it's good. If it's taken you some time, like if you've read a bunch of books between now and Quicksilver, this is such a good recap episode to get you up to speed before we do that deep dive.
So this comes from an area of Zilvarin called the Third Ward. Essentially, the Silver City, which is another term for Zilvarin, it's divided into different wards and it's different class systems. And essentially, she's like the poorest of the poor. They're actually deemed plagued.
Yeah.
Not really, but that's what they are. So stealing is really the only way that she can live. And stealing from the queen obviously is going to cause some issues, which it does.
A few.
A few issues, which kind of lands her in the being transported to Eve in a way through
Yeah, it was
what
very,
we know
a
as
lot of
Quicksilver.
did you feel like there were, like, a lot of, like, nods to, like, King Arthur, and you have, like, the
Mhm.
sword and the stone, and, like, some really cool elements of, like, older classic fairy tales tied into this book that I really loved. This book has gotten, like, a lot of heat for being like, "Oh, she just took all these tropes and put it in one book," and I don't think that first of all, is inherently bad because obviously there's tropes for a reason. We all love to read them first of all. But second of all, it's entertaining. I loved it. I loved
Mhm.
this book. I loved how fast paced it was. I loved that there were things that I was semi familiar with in a world I've never been in. It's
I
long, it's
r
detailed. I didn't feel like that was overdone, in my opinion. Thoughts?
Right, having similar stories definitely helps when you're grounding in a completely different world. The Winter Palace, although it was unique to Sarah, it wasn't entirely unique having an elemental palace. To your point, Arthur with the sword and the stone, there weren't a whole lot of unique elements in some ways with tropes, but it wasn't a bad thing because with the world building, if you're just throwing in a bunch of new stuff, it's really hard to digest it all. So I liked the tropes. I know I have heard a lot of complaints about it, but I did like some of the things were not strictly unique in a broad sense, but unique to this story and how Callie Hart crafts her characters because her character development is phenomenal, even with the side characters, which a lot
Mhm.
of times is really hard to do to develop backstories for side characters and really understanding a lot of different characters, not just our FMC and MMC, male main character. So,
Right. The way I love
and back,
Saris, she's ugh.
mhm,
Her and Bryce from Crescent City are, like, my 2 favorite FMCs. Like, I like Violet,
mhm,
but whiny Violet and Iron Flame, she's not Sarah. It's that simple. She just isn't.
right.
Saris is, like, in her
She,
own category,
mhm,
her own breed.
right. I mean, honestly, I pictured Saris as a Katniss. Like that's kind of like an older
That's
Katniss,
fair.
essentially, is what I was picturing because that's the kill or be killed, hunter gatherer, really
She's
got to do
harsh.
what you got to do. Moving back into the plot, Saris essentially comes face to face with what she calls as death himself, as she is being faced with the punishment from the Undying Queen for stealing the gauntlet, and she reopens a gateway between realms and is transported to Evel, which is the land of ice and snow. It's eternally winter there. She's in the Winter Palace, and
Meanwhile,
this
she just
is
came from
a
a fucking desert where there's no water.
mhm.
Like, the way that this parallel in my mind was like, I'm like, "Yeah, girl, finally you got somewhere cold, but also, like, you are not dressed for this.
Which
This
it's
is not
not, but it's not
appropriate what you're
always
ready
hot.
for."
There are wards
Yeah.
there. And it's not, and she's not, she's human. Let's get this
Mhm.
straight. She's human. And now she's transported to a Fae world, which she thought
Correct.
Faes were myths and fairy tales. And now she's like,
Correct.
wait, you're real. Which the whole
Yeah, because
magical
in that
element with the Undying Queen and,
yeah, and I love that about this book, how, like, the Fae are mentioned, but every time there's any mention of them in the initial the initial storytelling before she goes, right, to that side, is it's hundreds of years old, or it's very old storytelling, kind of the equivalent
Mhm.
of, like, our stories of vampires in Transylvania. Like, Transylvania is not a real place, but, like, if you fell through a portal and now you're in fucking Transylvania, you're like, "What the hell?" But, like, you have some idea of where you are because you've heard so many of these stories
Right.
with time, and that's kind of what reminded me of a way that I could relate to Ferris and, like, how you could fall through a world where it's made up, but you, like, know enough about it that you're like, "Hey, I kinda get what's happening here, but you guys were made up monsters, you're not supposed to be this isn't real." Like dragons, perfect
Mhm.
example. If we just saw a
Right.
dragon flying overhead, we're like, "What about y'all? But that was in my book. Like, that wasn't not supposed to be out here. Also, run for
Right.
cover because 'cause y'all burn things."
Just a
But,
few
yeah,
things.
just a few. Couple
And
things.
right. So Saris essentially is faced with a task. There's an element called Quicksilver, and her entire mission, as established by Bella, which is the king of Avelia, is to reopen these portals so he has open access to different portals. And there's also a centuries long war going on. There are a lot of different characters, different types of mythological creatures in this novel, which we're going to break down into what type of creatures. And Death has a name in this novel and is Kingfisher of the Aegean Gate. His past is murky. His attitude stinks. He's sassy as fuck. And the only way Saris is going to make it home is by making sure she works with him.
Yeah. I would say this is a in terms of tropes, you're looking at the grumpy MMC male main character and the badass female main character. So not Grumpy Sunshine. This is not Grumpy
Mm-mm.
Sunshine in any sort of a
No,
way.
they definitely match
Um
each other's energy in this
Yes, they
novel.
do. They do. And I think I like that too, is that I didn't see that as a typical trope that I've read. I
Mhm.
haven't read a lot of them where they're both just, I mean, it's enemies to lovers, of course, which is like the bigger trope, but like you have a grumpy male main character and then you also have this badass female main character who's just, I cannot emphasize enough how much I truly loved Sarah. And I don't know if it's because I like heavily related to her and her like ability to just not what others thought of her to determine her strength or who she was. We see that where it's just she doesn't have a lack of confidence and she's going to get what she needs to do and do what she needs to do even if she's fearful, and that courage is something that I loved reading about with her. I also love the fact that she was like very open and very didn't have gender norms and just whatever she felt she did, and I like that about her too, was that you
Right.
didn't get a traditional view of her either.
She's a product of her environment, right? If
Mhm.
you're barely surviving and you have to survive on 6 ounces of water a day in scorching hot desert, you just survive and do life's too short. Do what you need to
Yep.
survive and then do what you want with the other time that you have left.
There was no like I'm going to save myself for marriage or any of that because like that world doesn't have time for that. You could be dead.
That's
You
a
need to
world
live and
of
enjoy. It's a world of of privilege
mhm.
in our sense is having a world where you never know when you're beyond death's door. You don't really care about waiting till marriage because you may not live to ever get married. Like that just might not be the case in this world we're in. But speaking of worlds, let's get into our setting description and our new map. I know that the map we have here, which I'm showing on screen, right? There she is also in Kindle Unlimited, and this is the paperback version of Quicksilver. The hardcover, beautiful hardcover special edition is releasing to the US and to all your local booksellers and big booksellers in August of this year. So I'm very, very excited to add that to our book trophies, my bookshelf here. Have a couple locations on here. And what's funky with this is like you're going through a portal, so when you're thinking about that in your mind of like all these different places, it's you would think easy to be confused, but it kind of works. I don't know. Michelle, what were your thoughts?
I mean, it allows for quick travel, honestly, with the portals. There aren't a lot of portals, and we don't
Correct.
really get a whole lot from her first like jump into the portal because girl's almost dead. So there, but it does help with moving pace because if you look at the map, it's not like Crescent City where there's like modern technology. It's you're on
Oh no.
horseback. And that's
Yeah.
how you get around is on horseback. So it does
This is
speed up time.
Akatar. Yep. That's
Yes.
mindset of where you are.
The map that we mainly are in is definitely the northwest part of the map. If you're looking at it, there is definitely a lot more to this world than what we get in this book. But I do like that there's a map there. It is accurate. The one thing that is not on the map is Var. We don't get any of the human districts, which is a kind of a small part of the book. That's, it'd be nice to have just because there's a lot of description on Zilvarin and how this Silver City is set up and the wards, and there's still a whole lot that we don't know, and maybe there might be at some point an additional map so we understand that. Zilvarin is the city ruled by the immortal queen, which is Madra. She's referenced a lot in the book. The fact that she's human, but she's lived for centuries is, questionable.
Very
Very much. Zilvarin is in a desert city, which we've referenced. It's surrounded by walls that are 50 meters high, and then within the walls, there's this hub that's like a big marketplace. Like think of any sort of standard market you've seen in any movie.
games.
The residents
District
of
12.
the hub are elite, though. It's not District 12 because it's very
No.
much this is where the upper class lives. But
Yeah, it's not the hub.
then it's divided into different wards, and the outer wards are basically established as shanty towns. And the third ward specifically is required of quarantine. This is like lowest of low class. And
The way when they
just
said quarantine, it triggered my COVID response of like they're quarantined because they're like other and like dirty and like diseased, and we can't risk
No.
they've have tainting the rest of us. And the way it was like triggering of COVID quarantine for me, I was like, this is too new. We just go through
And what
this? This is like
right.
not good.
Well, at first you're like, oh, you must have a disease, which she does. Like Sarah
Mhm.
says that she has the rattles, but you realize very early on that the queen actually establishes them as like a fake disease plagued people because they're the people that raise questions. And these are the people whose ancestors have done rebellions, and she's really just trying to snuff them out. The fact that they
Yeah,
get
and
6 ounces of water, and that they literally have to, it's sewage runoff that they get. And
so bad.
it's not clean. Their filtration system just catches the solids. It's so disgusting. So she's trying to kill them off. So
yeah.
the diseases are fake, ultimately.
And they do this on purpose because she wants to continue her reign without question. Anyone that's going to question her, clearly we can tell that she's a very benevolent queen, and ruling as the fairest on earth, etc. She's good, right? That's what she's trying to perceive by getting rid of this plague that is the third world. Right. Moving into Yuvelia, which is where we have the Winter Palace. This is Kingfisher's land. Him and his sister reside here, and this is the St. Marble Palace. I mean, thought kind of, I can't imagine something more beautiful. The way I imagined it was really elegant. It's really beautiful, elegant world that is so polarly opposite from what Saras has known. It's just too much. So then you have, within Yuvelia, you have Ajin, if you're looking at the map, which is the northernmost outpost of Yuvelia. This is relevant because we find out about past parts of Kingfisher. It's also relevant in his bonus chapters where you learn more about where he was at this northernmost outpost and some of the history of Yuvelia here. Kalish is another small area on the edge of Yuvelia. We go to Wicker Woods, a prison for creatures who committed heinous crimes in life. The Darn, which is a frozen river that separates Yuvelia from the vampire lands, also critical element. And these shadow gates or portals, which obviously where the Quicksilver falls through. There's one in the Wicker Woods, which teleports to Kalish, which I think is really cool, this teleportation idea. And it reminds me of a video game. Like if Quicksilver were to be anything, I could see it totally as a video game. It reminded me a lot of imagery from The Witcher, which it's cold in a lot of the scenes in The Witcher. And of course, Henry Cavill, what's not to like? I could totally see Kingfisher as Henry Cavill personally. Because I feel like I don't know about you. I'll ask you when we get to Kingfisher, we talk about it. But the cover picture of him, I am curious, but I could totally see Henry Cavill playing Kingfisher. But I would just like
He is a millennia, so
I'm just saying, it wouldn't hurt. Just putting it out there, Callie. Well, Henry Cavill never hurt anybody. I'm just saying. Right. So we have these portals, and then we have the palace of the vampires, the Gilith. So that kind of make up.
Right. And before we get into our main characters, it's really important the book itself, both in the Kindle version and in the paperback, there's a pronunciation guide for people and for places. Yes, we love. So we're not guessing what these characters are. The pronunciation guide doesn't have every single character, but these are because her story is primarily rooted in Gaelic. So a lot of the names are Irish. They're we might mispronounce them. We'll try our very best, but these are the ones that are more traditional in spelling, and as well as the places that are, these are complete unique areas. So definitely love the pronunciation guide. So for main
Yeah,
characters,
I wanted to mention, like, another land, and I don't know if we wanna call it that per se, but, like, their realm or space between that they travel to in their subconscious is this, like, open field where there's these goddesses, and it's another plane of time that's not impacted that they kind of travel to, and it's an interesting part of the story as to how everything will eventually line up timeline-wise, but I just thought it was worth mentioning that the places we named are on the map, but they're not encompassing of everywhere we necessarily go. Okay.
agreed. Okay. Main characters. So we've talked about Sarah Spain. She's our female main character, 24 years old. She is very unique. From the very beginning of the book, she's kind of described as having different physical character traits and dark hair and blue eyes. And these are actually resembling the royalty of the Fae, which she comes to learn pretty early on as soon as she gets into a belly. And then Saris is a Fae name, so very unique. And then we have Kingfisher, who is our main character, who is on the cover of the novel. And his name actually has an origin, the origin story of the tale of the Fisher King. This is an Irish tale where we have a great king that ruled over a land of plenty, but one day he was gravely wounded and his kingdom suffered and became a wasteland. The king, unable to walk, sat by the river and fished. There were many knights that tried to heal him, but only one pure-hearted hero had the wisdom to ask, "What ails you, my king?" And by showing compassion, the hero broke the curse, the king was healed, Holy Grail was revealed, and the land blossomed. So he kind of has an origin story there.
Right, with his name. Yeah,
So,
it's pretty significant. Kingfisher on the cover. Did you read the book because of the cover? Or did you like the cover? I mean, what's not to like? I loved the cover. I thought
so
whoever designed it did a really good job. But what were your thoughts?
I love the cover, but my only thing with having a person on the cover is like for the Netflix series that's going to come out, fans are going to be upset if it doesn't look like this person, and this person likely does not exist. That's my only thing with this. I love this. This is
Unattainable.
beautiful. Yes.
That's what you're saying?
Not that unattainable. This person might exist, but he might not be a good actor.
Yeah, because it's gonna be on Netflix. We gotta figure out
Right.
who we're gonna
So
cast as
that's my only
Kingfisher.
thing when you have a character on the cover of a novel that hasn't been made into anything yet. I
Well,
honestly
I
I
think
started
all this
reading it.
happened really fast
Mhm.
for Callie Hart.
Right.
She even when she posted on her Instagram that it got picked up by Netflix, a seven-figure deal that got picked up by Netflix, mind you, which congratulations, that's incredible, amazing. We
Mhm.
love to see it. But I do wonder if she even like considered that when picking the cover, if they were like, "Oh, hey, like if we ever cast this, as a movie, we're gonna have to like think about who we put on here." Like I doubt that it was even
Right.
a
Discuss, yeah.
thing. Yeah, no.
Probably not.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I could think of a few who might be able to play him well. All
Besides
right,
Henry
so hey,
Cavill.
well, the goat, but I'm sure we can come up with a few more. We have Hayden, who is Saris's brother, who we discussed a little bit earlier. We have Carry On, who is beloved. Saris's
I love
ex-lover
Carrion Swift.
turn.
Carrion Swift was like he was comedic relief in times because he's just like, what the fuck's going on? But
He's the
also
story's
he
Riddick.
plays dumb. Yeah, exactly. I loved Carrion. He was my favorite. Obviously
Yeah.
Kingfisher, but like from like besides like Kingfisher, I loved me some Carrion Swift.
Then we had Everlane, who's the princess who I really liked her too. Renfus, I loved their little cutesiness that goes on. About that more as we get through more. Nucerius, who's the librarian. Onyx, one of my favorite characters. A little white fox. Belicon, the Yavelian king. Malcolm, the head vampire. Queen Madra, the undying queen bitch. I mean queen. And then we have different types of characters. So, of course, we have humans, which
Right.
is Sarah, right? We talked about this already. Fairies, immortal beings with superior strength and senses. They have pointed ears and pointed teeth. You can't tell on the cover of Callie Hart's book that Kingfisher
Which
is Fae, but I think
right.
that was intentional. But he definitely should have pointed ears. You just cannot see them in the cover
He
of
has
the
long
book.
locks of hair, so
Yeah,
you
that
wouldn't
too.
normally see it. But I thought the pointed teeth was interesting because that wasn't usually with Faye and at the different Faye novels that we've read. The pointed ears are indicators, but not the pointed teeth so much. But there's a backstory
Yeah.
there, which I really liked. It wasn't just a random drop.
Nope.
There's like an actual like history to that.
And
Right. And they're not the only ones with pointed teeth. We actually have vampires in this, which they're also called feeders in the novel. So those two terms are used interchangeably because vampires, they drink the blood of humans, fae, basically anything and anyone, and they're
yeah.
always in this like feral state.
And these are not your serpents and the wings of night vampires. These are not,
No.
Oreya and Rain type vampires. This is a very different sort of thing. More, I kind of related them more to like a type of controlled zombie sort of. It's
This is like
not.
underworld.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah,
Good
very much like
reference.
underworld. So yeah,
Great movie, by the way.
not sexy at all.
No,
At all.
not cute. Not cute vampires.
Right. Then we have Quicksilver, which is a melted element, essentially. It's just melted metal that's sentient. And then an alchemist. The term alchemist will be used to reference alchemy is a type of magic that uses metals to turn into other objects. So here we have an alchemist who is able to control the Quicksilver, which is like the sentient silver that it has control over Kingfisher.
Yes.
Then there's some smaller characters that are just referenced or types of creatures. They're shades, which when they enter the woods, they're echoes of life when a creature dies. Those are all throughout the woods. There's Drake, which is a dragon, but they reference it as a drake as well. And that is actually really important in our bonus chapters. The one Drake that is referenced, that was actually the last dragon, is Nam Shakri. And so we get a preview of who actually that is and like the actual dragon being alive. And then there are wraiths, which are ghost-like creatures. So yeah, those are
Yeah, we've
essentially
got.
all of the major types of characters.
Yeah, and this book has everything. I mean, you have gods, you have humans, you have fae, you have vampires, you have magic, you have fates, you have mates, you have, wraiths. I mean, you have like so many things happening, portals to other worlds, different realms, different things having to do with the gods and the fates. This shit's nonstop. Okay. Like, there's a lot happening in this book, and there's still great character building and storytelling. It's a long fucking book. Like, this thing's over 600 pages. And I remember when you told me when you were going to read the Audible, you were like, Danny, this is like 20 hours long. And I'm like, listen, just do it. Just do it. Because sometimes what we do is we try to figure out what our next book is going to be, right, to cover. And we talked about it a lot. We still have a couple on deck that I definitely want to come back to, Michelle, that you're going to be up next to pick our next one. But this was definitely my pick. I won't, there's no two ways about it. I definitely picked this book and was like, Michelle, tell me what you think. Read it. What do you think? And so I'm really glad that you were like concurred with me that we should do it. I think Book Talk and Bookstagram may have also helped you along on that journey. But either way, I'm not mad at it.
Oh, no,
So,
it was definitely not the slow. It was what helped me was this is not a slow burn at all. And I was like,
most
oh,
certainly not.
okay, we are in like
Got
the
some
early
spice.
chapters and things are getting heated. Okay, I will keep
I would-
listening.
what
And the
was your spice
audiobook
level?
is, because it wasn't anything like crazy. I would say like a solid like 3.5. It's not like Leather and Lark, which if you read or listened to Leather and Lark,
The Ruinous Love
Audible
trilogy.
audiobooks, yes, the audiobook is phenomenal, but some of those scenes very graphic. Those are definitely like
Very.
4.5 because they're just, yes. So this is,
Yeah.
I enjoyed the scenes that was well written. Listening to them in the voices, just do it. If you're not an audiobook girly, that's okay. Just do it. It's okay.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely 3.5. Nothing too crazy, but I did like how it wasn't slow burn. I get kind of tired of slow burn.
Yeah. And we should point out that it's like open door explicit, meaning you will see second page. It's not gonna fade to black. It's graphic.
Yeah.
Fisher's graphic with his words. He don't give a shit. He's gonna say exactly what he wants to say, and also I'm here for it. So buckle up, Buttercup. It does have a good amount of spice. This is where I don't get me wrong. I love your slow burns. Like right now, I'm in Heat of the Everflame and Glow. All of the Everflame books are a slow burn. This is not that. This is spicy. You know what's going on.
He's like over 1,000 years old and she is 24. So she's in her mid-20s. She's had partners in the past, So
Yeah.
and just like the urgency that they have, it makes sense for them to just kind of start, not wait for anything.
And then once you understand their pull together, right? When we
Right.
get into that more, once you understand that level of the magic element that kind of ties them, it even goes further. And I want to ask you a random question. What are your thoughts on fated mates and reading fated mates as a
I'm relatively new to back into romantasy, right? I'm still working my way through Throne of Glass and Crescent City. The idea makes sense in Fae world. It doesn't bother me. I know that's like a trope that bothers some people. That is just kind of like a cop out. Like, oh, well, they're fated, so obviously they're gonna be together. And, I don't feel any type of way about it. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Their souls are bonded together. I kind of like that idea of like, someone is like your soulmate. That's because that's essentially what it is. It's like your soul,
well, they
like
kind
that's
of
the
make
other
people that
half of
are
you.
yeah, well, people that are, like, against it, I feel like their thought is, like, you don't the other person doesn't have a choice in it, and I
But that's not exactly wrong because in ACOTAR, people can
reject their
you
bond.
can reject the bond, so it's not that big of a deal. And then in Crescent City, the term mate is kind of like they're a little bit more liberal with it because that's where I'm at. I'm in the House of Sky and Breath, and so I'm not going to drop too many spoilers or anything with that series, but it's not as like cut and dry. So I don't
Yeah, it's
exactly
complex. I think
agree
it's
that
complex based
right
on the series that
whatever
you're
world
reading
you're
and
in.
what
And
yeah,
here
and
there is in
loosely
this
mhm.
world you can reject the bond. You can. It's an option. There is like a tattoo option of, the whole bonding process and what like the physical tattoo means. And there is an option to not go through with it. I think that people referring to that as a cop out is I don't think it's exactly accurate. I mean, you're entitled to your opinions, but that's just mine. So why do
Fair.
you have
I
do you feel
agree.
some type of way about fated mates? Okay.
No, there's just, like, a lot of people who have made comments about fated mates as a trope and how they dislike it. I think if you're going to have magic, to me, is a form of our magic. You
Mhm.
have
Aw.
people that literally die of a broken heart in our world. That's a real thing. They have no other
Yeah.
ailments, and they will die of a broken heart. It happens all the time. It can't be scientifically described. So for me,
Mhm.
fated mates is understanding love in a magic form that's binding. It
Right.
doesn't bother me. I think it makes a lot of sense to have something more defining in a world that's magically driven.
Mhm.
To have something tied to love, a love element that ties to parts to become a whole in a love sense. To me, that makes sense that it would be not simply called a marriage in our world. It's something even more than that. There's no marriage of convenience. It's an extra layer. It's your soul. It's this thing that you can't tangibly put a word to. And it's a more powerful thing of saying that's my mate versus that's my legal obligation spouse. Like, that's not fun. Who wants to say
Right.
that? Like, I don't
That's
know.
my
Like,
legally obligated spouse.
yeah. We're
Yeah,
legally
no, I
bound. Yeah, love everybody loves that. That's super romantic. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think that that has the same kind of ring to it as that's my fated mate. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
right.
that just has like a that's my soulmate. It's the same thing. We call
What do you think is your overall rating for this book?
it definitely was a 5 for me. I loved it.
Right. I mean, I did too. I would likely rate it like a 4.75 or a 5. I think I would go more to a 5 just because I really cuz I know I said it was 20 hours that is on the Audible, but I definitely got through that in a lot quicker time. It definitely
You
did
didn't
not take
feel
me
like
that
it,
long to
right?
listen to it.
Mhm.
No, the story is just there's no slow points with the story. There's a lot of world building even with the tropes, which some people thought was a negative. I mean, we talked about how like it was a positive in this sense. So yeah, this was it. I love this book. So
Awesome. Yeah, the number of people I've recommended this to. Also, like, you have a tattooed, damaged shadow daddy. What open this book immediately. What are we doing with
the
our lives?
fact
Go read this.
I mean, Shadow Daddy is its own trope in of itself. Like
Yeah,
if
it
the
is.
character is blonde, then they're likely evil. That's kind of what's going on right now. And if they are dark hair and brooding, then obviously he's the tortured soul that. And I feel like that kind of has to do with because a lot of these authors are like millennial authors, right? And
Yeah.
like the emo
We got
phase was
tired
so
of seeing
hard.
that.
It was so emo core that's like for millennials and now it's like okay well let's like turn emos into something that people will actually enjoy. I feel like
Did you
it has
just
something
say
to do a little
Kingfisher's
bit with
emo? I love
he
it.
has tattoos, flippy black hair, and he is
He's emo.
brooding and has mommy and daddy issues. I
He
definitely
might be
would
emo.
say he probably listened to Green Day and like System of the Down and any sort of
Avenged
punk.
Sevenfold. Yeah. He was definitely an Avenged Sevenfold guy. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Little Metallica.
Some
What's not to like?
All right, so there's some news related information in terms of this book. So we know the Fey and Alchemy series is actually going to be a trilogy. So we have the
Three.
second book that is going to come out, which is called Brimstone, and it's going to come out in November. So pre-order now. And then there will be a third book after that. So
Title not yet released. Otherwise, we would tell you. We don't know yet when that
mhm.
one's coming out, and we don't know what it's called. But we do know that Quicksilver got picked up by Netflix, at least the first one. We don't know when that's coming out yet or when the casting is for that, but we know it was a 7-figure deal. Go Callie, woo! And then we also know that hardcover, the special edition hardcover, sprayed edges, beautiful book, is coming out in August. I know Callie has
Mhm.
posted a couple things on her Instagram about signed copies, and I'm sure she'll push out a whole bunch of signed copies when it comes to release date for the special editions. Definitely keep an eye on her socials for that. And also, Forever Publishing is her publisher. They may release some stuff on Instagram as well. Of course, tune into us. And of course, we will have all of that. We will reshare all of their things on our socials. So don't worry about any of that. You won't miss a beat.
There's also bonus content on Callie Hart's website. There's Kingfisher POV chapters that you definitely need to read. The first two chapters is called The Gate Part 1 and The Gate Part 2. These are actually before Quicksilver takes place, and this is where you learn why he's called Kingfisher of the Ajun Gate, because a lot throughout most of the book you're like, okay, I know the Ajun Gate is a thing, why? But you actually get the
Right.
backstory of that and a lot of information between him and Renfis, and it adds a lot more perspective. And then you have the chapter called The Fox, the Boots, and the Dress, and this is in the middle of the book where he has already met Sarah and kind of his perspective on the chapters there. So definitely once you're done reading, go to Callie Hart's website and read the bonus content.
Yeah. And I want to mention too that we are going to tell the tale considering that you have read the bonus content. As we go through it, we will be referencing the bonus content and all of the chapters. Make sure that you have read those. And
Mhm.
that will lead us to our mystery Q&A. Short episode this week. Now it is time for our mystery Q&A. My question for you in the spirit of it being towards the end of March is what's your favorite Girl Scout cookie and why?
Girl Scout cookie. Okay. So mine is, I think they're called Samoas. It's the coconut
Okay.
caramel one with the chocolate. I just love coconut. Coconut's my favorite. So those are definitely it. Yeah, and those are my husband's favorite too, which also doesn't
Do you
help because he'll just want cookies. Have I frozen them?
Because those frozen are
No,
bomb. They're so good. If
no,
you've
I
never
haven't.
frozen those, they like
Okay.
break, like kind of shatter when because they're
Mhm.
chocolate underneath coated.
Mhm.
Those frozen are, I mean, they're all really good, but like those ones frozen, they're so good. You have to do it. Take like half the
Okay.
sleeve and put it in a baggie or whatever and put it in the freezer next time you get the Girl Scout
Okay.
cookies and give that a go.
Do you just eat
Yeah.
them frozen or do you like put them on
Yeah.
something?
No, I
Okay.
have two in
Yes.
my freezer,
Both.
two
Okay.
boxes of them in my freezer right now.
So
Yes, that are
yours is
frozen.
the Samoas. Those are yours? Your
No,
favorites?
I
Oh,
like 3. I have top 3. The
okay.
Samoas, the
Okay.
Thin
Let's hear it.
Mints, and the peppermint patties, and they're all in my freezer right now because those are the only ones I order, and I
What's
have
the
very low what's the difference? Oh, so the Samoas are the ones you describe, right? Where they're chocolate dip with it's like a
Mhm.
cookie, chocolate dipped on the bottom
Right.
with the caramel, with the coconut, and the drizzle of the chocolate on the top. Pop those things in the amazing. Then you have the
Mhm.
peppermint cookie, which is the Thin Mint, the classic Thin Mint, chocolate dip, chocolate cookie, peppermint in the freezer. Again, 10 out of 10. Then you have the peanut butter patty, which has another name. I'm trying to think of what it's called. Someone will correct me in the comments, which is by the way, I obviously am allergic to dairy. Danny does not leave the house after eating these. These are an at-home treat special delight. So we eat these in very small increments and on a rare occasion. That's why they're in the freezer because they last longer that way. Otherwise, my husband and son will literally eat all of them before I even have a chance. So I digress. Then you have the peanut butter ones, right? Which is like the peanut butter, the cookie, the whole thing dipped in chocolate. So it's like a round. I put all of these in the freezer because all of them are so good in the freezer.
Okay.
Each season, all 3 are a must purchase. You can't just do the one. Like I need to get each one of them. So I'm clearly passionate about
We are
this
a
topic.
we are a Girl Scout cookie connoisseur over here.
I like them. So fans out there, what are your favorite Girl Scout cookies and why? Like, make sure you let us know because we love these questions. They're fun. So
Mhm.
all right, hit me with one.
I was also going to keep it lighthearted and we'll just keep it on the dessert train. So,
Ooh.
what's your go-to baked good item that you make?
That I make.
Mhm.
Oh, I would say my go-to I'm gonna go seasonal. My go-to, like, baked item that I would say I would be most known for, I make every year, and I share these pretty much wherever I go in the fall season, because basically the fall season's, like, my favorite time of year. I love autumn. I love all the things. I make a very good dairy-free chocolate chip pumpkin bread. I love to make this. I make it every year. It's definitely like my signature. I've perfected this dairy-free recipe to the point where no one has ever
How
tried
have I
it and
not had
asked if it's
this?
different. I don't know. But no one has ever tried it and asked if it's different, like anything different than a
From dairy
regular
free.
pumpkin bread. They can tell. They
Okay.
cannot tell that it's dairy-free. Yeah. They're got a little crusty like top in a good way because it's got like a little bit of a
Mhm.
firm top on the bake. It rises really well. Yeah, it just makes a really good loaf. I'll have it, but like
Mhm.
the loaf you can have at breakfast and not feel guilty. You can have it after dinner and it's still dessert.
I mostly make cakes. I honestly, for any sort of family gathering,
You
I'm
make good
expect
cakes
no,
though.
I don't wanna say I'm expected, but it's kinda like, "Okay, so what are you gonna make?" So, thank you. I made my wedding cake.
No, you
So
didn't. I didn't know that.
I did, yeah, mainly
Publix made
because we
mine.
we
We were not
were
fancy
fresh out
about
of
it.
college
Publix
and we'd
makes
be
a great
broke.
cake.
Publix
Yeah.
does make a great cake. But, yeah, I made my wedding
What kind of cake
cake. It was a lemon blueberry cake with a lemon buttercream.
Now
So,
we're gonna
because
have
it
that
was the
pictured on
summer
YouTube. You're
wedding.
gonna have to pop this
Yeah.
in, put the picture. I need to
Oh,
see this cake.
I mean, I'm not saying, like, I'm, the best baker in the world. I just made the cake. But, yeah, it was actually a really sad story. It was the night before our wedding, and my husband had to transport the cake to the wedding location, and they were driving on I-4, and if you aren't familiar from Orlando, I-4 is a clusterfuck of traffic and construction, and he heard, like, a donk as they were driving and half the cake fell over. They didn't tell me until we were about to cut the cake because they didn't want me to be mad. But the place we got married was in Winter Park, and they like pieced it back together and put like frosting and threw some extra blueberries and stuff on top, so it looks really good. But yeah, it got glued back together, and my mother-in-law and my husband were like, "Don't tell her until it's time because I don't
Until
want
it's
her
too
to
late.
get so mad." Yeah, exactly. Like, we were already married, we already ate, we're about to cut the cake. My husband's like, "By the way."
That's funny.
So, yeah, it didn't yeah, it shifted. It's fine, but it's a funny story to tell.
That's a great
Um,
story. It was nice of him actually to preserve your sanity throughout a wedding, because how stressful would that have been, not knowing, like, the state of things and knowing you really couldn't have done anything about it. So that was actually really sweet of him to kind of shield you from additional wedding stress jitters, because that doesn't help.
no.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, right, I think he was worried that I was going to be mad that I didn't tell him, but I was just like, "Okay, let's see
Well,
it."
yeah, and what can I do now? It's already, like, too late,
Right,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah,
So, it ended up being fine. We smashed the cake into each other's faces, it was great.
good.
So, before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
Yeah, so next week we're going to dive really deep into our chapters now for Quicksilver. So we're going to start with the chapters 1 through 5 of Quicksilver by Callie Hart. We will start, again, a reminder, we will have our prequel chapters in there as well. So hit the subscribe button to hear more of our exciting book talk, and we're looking forward to dissecting this novel with you.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Quicksilver or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
You can visit our website at bookclubafterdark.co, stay up to date on our cozy content, and check out our merch. We will have some new stuff dropping here pretty soon. We'll talk about it more. And we also have a couple other exciting things that we're going to release as we get into the rest of this year. I'm very excited. As most of you may or may not know, Michelle and I are two full-time working people who also are mothers. So for us, this is a labor of love. Book Club After Dark is a big labor of love. We'd love to do this full time, but we're not there quite yet. So all the ideas we have, while I would love to put them into action tomorrow, take a little bit of time for us to get there. Keep up the patience with us, and we have so much more for you.
And all the support that you can give us so we can get to the point where we can push out as much content as we dream is greatly appreciated. So that's all
Yeah,
for
like our
tonight.
stuff. Go on Spotify, like us stuff there. You know, all of those things like really, truly, truly help, especially when you're starting small like us. So
So that's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.